Okay. Alright, so the next poem by Bradstreet that we are studying is Upon the Burning of Our House, July 10th, 1666.
I can't see the document.
Make sure you're signed in on your Gmail, like on your Google account, so you can have access to it. Okay, so I'm going to read the first, we're going to break this down into sections of 10 lines and paraphrase those sections instead of line by line because this one is a little bit longer than the other one. Okay, so I'm going to read the first 10 lines and then we're going to talk about how we want to paraphrase that. In silent night when rest I took, for sorrow near I did not look. I wakened was with thundering noise and piteous shrieks of dreadful voice. That fearful sound of fire and fire, let no man know is my desire. I starting up the light did spy, and to my God my heart did cry, to strengthen me in my distress, and not to leave me succorless. And that means without assistance or helpless. Okay, so what is happening in these first 10 lines? So the title of the poem is Upon the Burning of Our House. So we can infer that this poem might possibly be about her house burning down. And she's writing like a little journal poem of what happened that night. Okay, so in these first 2 lines, what's happening? At first she's sleeping. In silent night when rest I took. So she's gone to bed for the night. And then what happens? Yeah, she wakes up to this loud noise and shrieks of dreadful voice. So someone's yelling out, fire, fire. And then what happens? I starting up the light did spy. She got up and she sees the light from either the fire or someone has lit a candle or something. I mean, I doubt that they've lit a candle at night when there's a fire going on, so you can assume that she's probably seen the fire happening. And then she cries out to God to straighten her in her distress and not to leave her helpless. Okay? So, how do we want to paraphrase that? We're doing it together today. I'm not going to give you all the answers, so you're going to have to work with me. What? Okay. So, I was asleep when... What happens after that? I heard a loud noise. What noise did she hear? Okay, someone was yelling, quote, fire. What does she do next? She gets up and sees the fire. So I got up and saw the fire, and then what did she immediately do? Okay. And cried out to God. To not abandon me. Okay, she was asleep. She woke up to the sound of someone yelling fire. She gets up, she sees the fire, and she cries out to God to not abandon her. coming out beheld a space, the flame consume my dwelling place. And when I could no longer look, I blessed his name that gave and took, that laid my goods now in the dust. Yea, so it was, and 'twas just. It was his own, it was not mine. Far be it that I should repine. Okay, that means complain. He might have all justly bereft, but yet sufficient for us left. What is happening here in these 10 lines? So, coming out, beheld a space, the flame consumed my dwelling place. Okay, or we could say the fire has taken over her home. And when I could no longer look, I blessed his name that gave and took, that laid my goods now in the dust. Who is she talking about here? God. Okay, capital H in his. She's talking about God. So when I could no longer look, like I couldn't bear to see my house in this state, it's now burned down. I bless God because he gives and he takes. And he's the one that has chosen to have all my things laid in the dust, okay? Or, all her material possessions are now probably burned on the ground. Okay, so when I couldn't bear to look, I blessed God's name because he gives and takes. Yea, so it was, and so 'twas just. What does just mean in this line? The way she's using it. If you say something is just. What's another word that can be made with the word just? What? You got it? Okay. Okay, justice. Okay, so she's saying it's just that this happened. Okay, it evens out, it balances. Okay. So we can say it was justice. Okay. It was his own, it was not mine. Far be it that I should repine. Who does it belong to in her eyes? God. Okay, so even though it's her house, she's saying it's his to do what he wants with it. And if he chooses for it to burn down, then that's fine. That's his choice. Okay, so it was God's house. Okay, and then far be it that I should repine. Repine means to complain. Okay, so it was God's house. I won't complain. He might of all justly bereft, but yet sufficient for us love. Okay, bereft means deprived of the possession or use of something. Okay, so you're having something taken away from you. So he takes away, but sufficient for us left. What does sufficient mean? If something is sufficient, it's
Useful.
Tony.
Enough.
It's enough. Okay, so he took it away, or he took away my house. But left us with enough. Okay, before we move on to the next portions, I'm going to talk about an illusion in one of these sections. Okay, so let's look at this line. That laid my goods now in the dust. Okay. This is from the Bible, again. It's from Genesis, the book of Genesis. Okay, and the verse is, Dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that very well, but this line in Genesis is basically talking about how God creates humans from dust, and at the end of your lifetime, you will return to dust. Okay, so by her saying that line, that all of her goods are now in the dust, that's a reference to the fact that, and you can see it throughout the poem too, that she's saying God's in control of all of us. If it's His choice to lay my material goods and burn them and have them turn into dust, then that's His decision, because He also makes us and from dust, and we return there at the end of our lives. Okay, so that line is an illusion. Okay. You do not have to label inverted syntax in this assignment, but I just want to point out a few lines that have that. In Silent Night, when rest I took, instead of saying I took a rest, that's at the end instead of the beginning. There was one more. No, I think that was. And then this line. And to God my heart did cry. Those are both inverted syntax. Okay. Questions so far? When by the ruins oft I pass, my sorrowing eyes aside did cast. And here and there the places spy where oft I sat and long did lie. Here stood that trunk, and there that chest, there lay that store I counted best. My pleasant things in ashes lie, and then behold, no more shall I. Under thy roof no guest shall sit. Okay, so what's happening here? She's doing what? She's going back, and when by the ruins oft I passed. The ruins are her house. What? Okay.
Walking through them.
Well, she goes back by. They're ruins. Her house is no longer there. So she goes back by her house. Okay. So when I pass by my ruined house, okay, my sorrowing eyes aside did cast, and here and there places spy, where oft I sat and long did lie. Here stood that trunk, and there that chest, there lay that store I counted best. So, how is she feeling when she goes back by her house and looks at it? She's feeling sad. She has sorrowing eyes. It's kind of like you go back to a place where you spent a lot of time. Like imagine if you had lost your house and you go back and you visit that and you remember, well, this is the chair that I used to sit in. This is where my bed used to be that I used to sleep at night. And you're sort of reminiscing on those memories that you have in that place. So that's what she's doing here. So when I pass by my ruined house, I look at all the places in it that I used to spend time in. And I'm sad. My pleasant things in ashes lie, and then behold, no more shall I. Under thy roof no guest shall sit, nor at thy table eat of it. Okay? All my things are gone. My pleasant things in ashes lie. All my things are gone. I won't ever get them back. No, and then behold, no more shall I. I shall never hold them anymore. Under thy roof no guest shall sit, nor at thy table eat of it. Okay. I can no longer have my friends over. Or enjoy dinner at my table. Okay, so this section has a tone that is sad. So in the first section, she's startled. She finds out that her house has burned down, but then her immediate response is, well, God's taking care of me. Now that she's had a little time, she's processing those emotions. Now she's a little bit sad about it because she's thinking, well, I no longer get to spend time in that house. I can't have those things. They're all gone now. I can't invite people over. I don't have anywhere to eat dinner, or I can never sit at that same table again. Okay? So she's sad now. No pleasant tale shall e'er be told, nor things recounted done of old. No candle e'er shall shine in thee, nor bridegroom's voice e'er heard shall be. In silence ever shall thou lie. Adieu, adieu, all's vanity. Then straight I give my heart to chide, which means to find fault or blame. And did thy wealth on earth abide? Didst fix thy hope on moldering dust? Okay. So, no pleasant talk shall ever be told, nor things recounted done of old. So the things that we used to do in this house we can't do anymore. No candle e'er shall shine in thee, nor bridegroom's voice e'er heard shall be. In silence ever shalt thou lie. Okay, so my house, or this house, will be silent from now on. Adieu, adieu, all's vanity. What is vanity? Vanity comes from the word vain. What does it mean to be vain? If someone is vain. If I say you're vain, what do I mean? Evan.
Having or showing an excessively high opinion of one's appearance, abilities, or work.
Okay, you're full of yourself, basically. Okay, so vanity is like that, taking pride in your things or the way that you look. So adieu, adieu is French for goodbye. So she's saying goodbye to all of that. It's all vanity anyway. Goodbye to all my material possessions. What do they really matter? Okay. Then straight I again my heart to chide, and did thy wealth on earth abide. So now she's saying, I'm sort of blaming myself because I have constructed my life to have my material things mean something to me. Okay, her wealth on earth is the things that she's collected over her lifetime while she's here. So she's sort of disciplining herself at this point and getting onto herself a little bit and feeling guilty. Why have I put so much emotion and care into these material objects that don't matter after I leave earth? Okay, the illusion here is this line. Adieu, adieu, all's vanity. Okay, it also comes from the Bible. It is Ecclesiastes. Pretty sure that spelling's wrong on Ecclesiastes, but no, maybe it's not. Okay, but it comes from Ecclesiastes. The verse is vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Okay? So again, she's referencing the Bible. Didst thou fix hope on moldering dust, the arm of flesh did make thy trust. That was the end of the previous one. Again, she's saying, why did I put all my hope and my care and my emotions into this material thing on earth? Because I've just put all of that energy and care into something that is going to be dust anyway. Okay. The arm of flesh did make thy trust, raise up thy thoughts above the sky, that dunghill mist away may fly. Thou hast a house on high erect, framed by that mighty architect. With glory richly furnished, stands permanent, though this be fled. It's purchased and paid for too, by him who hath enough to do. A price so vast as is unknown, yet by his gift is made thine own. There's wealth enough, I need no more. Farewell my pelf, or a money or wealth. Farewell my store. The world no longer let me love, my hope and treasure lies above. Okay, so now that she's been sad, and then she switches to getting on to herself for having so much thought about all these material things that she no longer has. Now she's saying, raise up your thoughts to what's above, heaven. Okay, so instead of being sad, think about heaven. Thou hast a house on high erect, framed by that mighty architect. What is she referring to here? What house does she have waiting for her? She's thinking about heaven, and she says, I've got a house on high erect, framed by that mighty architect. Architect is capitalized. Who do we think the architect is? God. Okay, so where is this house? In heaven. Okay, instead of being sad, think about heaven. You have a house there. Built by God. With glory richly furnished, stands permanent, though this be fled. Okay, it's furnished with glory. And it's permanent, even though our material things on earth be fled or can be taken away. Basically, we're not going to have our things on earth forever. Okay. So you have a house there built by God that's permanent. It's purchased and paid for too by him who hath enough to do. And you could also even say that these two lines are a reference to Jesus and how, in the Bible it talks about how Jesus has paid the price for sinners. So you could say that's an allusion as well. Okay. A price so vast as is unknown, yet by his gift is made thine own. Okay. So it's God's gift. And then the last section. There's wealth enough, I need no more. Farewell my pelf, farewell my store. There's plenty for me in heaven. I don't need material items. The world no longer let me love, my hope and treasure lies above. Okay, and this is inverted syntax. So you have to sort of switch it around. She's telling herself, I don't need to be concerned with the world anymore and my material things that I have in my earthly life, because my treasure and hope lies above, or in heaven, or in the afterlife. Okay? So, don't love the world. Hope lies in heaven. Okay? Alright, now, for the metaphor. A metaphor is a comparison between two things that tells us something that's implied by the author. Okay, so where in this section do we have a comparison? Okay. Alright, so the metaphor, because we've talked about the two illusions. The metaphor is what?
Architect.
Architect. Okay, so it's a comparison between two things. So you have the architect and you have God. So she's comparing God to an architect because he has built a house for her in heaven. I also did want to mention that you could argue that this is an extended metaphor, and that she's comparing herself to Job. Do y'all know who that is from the Bible? So Job was this man in the Bible who had basically all these bad things kept happening to him. He lost all his possessions. He lost his family. He lost his health. Like, he got very sick. And he still trusted in God throughout that whole process. And in the end, like, that was what he had, was his faith and his trust in God. So you could say that she's sort of comparing herself to Job here, too, in an extended metaphor. Okay, so your question at the end, and I'm going to let you answer this on your own, is what conclusions can you draw about Bradstreet and her faith in God based on this poem? Like, does she have strong faith in God?
Genesis.
Why or why not? Okay. I would recommend going ahead and using the CER method to answer this, because you are going to have to use that on the test. So to go ahead and get some practice in on that would be good. So, does she have faith in God or not? And how do you know that based on this poem that she's writing? Question.